Want to speak real English from your first lesson? Sign up for your free lifetime account at EnglishClass101.com.
Hi everybody, my name is Alicia. In this lesson, I'm going to review a lot of emphasis words. In this lesson, I'm going to talk about very, really, quite, pretty, so, and such. I'm going to talk about the various parts of speech that we use these words with and share some example sentences. Let's get started. Okay. First, I want to talk about very and really. You may have seen another video that we have on the channel that talks about the differences between very and really. For some more information about these points, please check that video. To review here, however, we use very to modify adjectives and adverbs. We do not use very to modify verbs. So, some example sentences. First, as an adverb, here we have well. She sings very well. She sings very well. With an adjective, fast. He is a very fast runner. So we can use very to modify adverbs and adjectives. Here, well and fast are my adverb and my adjective, respectively. Let's compare this to really, really. Really is used to modify adjectives and adverbs, the same as very. However, really is used to modify verbs also. So let's look at example sentences. She sings really well. She sings really well. This is the same as the very example. They have the same meaning. He is a really fast runner. He is a really fast runner. Again, the same adjective here. I've simply changed really from very. So these sentences, they have the same feeling and the same meaning. You can choose which you prefer to use. Now, let's look at these two examples. These two examples are examples which use verbs modified by really. First, we really like Italian food. We really like Italian food. Like is a verb. Really modifies it. We give emphasis to like with the word really here. One more example. Our dog really loves you. Our dog really loves you. My verb is loves, and I'm modifying the verb with really here. My dog really loves you. So we can use very in this way. We can use really in this way. We cannot use very in this way. So adjectives and adverbs are okay. Adjectives, adverbs, and verbs are all okay with really. So with this in mind, let's continue to the next 2 points. The first one here is quite, quite. Like with really, we can use quite to modify adjectives and adverbs. It sounds a little more formal than very in American English. And we can use quite to modify verbs too. This point, modifying verbs with quite, is perhaps a little more commonly done in British English. We may from time to time use this in American English, but you may hear this more often in British English. So let's look at some examples. First, she sings quite well. She sings quite well. Again, well is my adverb here. I modify with quite. So this sounds a little more formal or a little more polite than very, at least in American English. Second, he is quite a fast runner. He's quite a fast runner. So here, quite is modifying the adjective, quite a fast runner, quite a fast runner. And keep in mind, I'm using this pattern, this adjective noun pattern. If this adjective begins with a vowel sound, we need to change this article to an. He is quite a fast runner. So this is how we would use it with quite to mean the same thing as very, but more polite. Let's look at how we use it with verbs. We quite like Italian food. We quite like Italian food. Again, like is my verb. Quite modifies it. It sounds quite polite. It sounds quite polite. So there I used it in this way. It sounds quite polite. Lastly, our dog quite likes you. Our dog quite likes you. So again, I've used the verb like here. I used love before, but quite likes you. You might hear that from time to time, that expression, I quite like you, or I quite like that thing. This is kind of a common expression that we use, perhaps more in British English, but from time to time in American English as well. So keep in mind, in American English, quite sounds a little bit more formal than very or really. But this is how we use it. Okay, so let's continue on then to pretty. Pretty. Please keep in mind, this pretty here, this is being used as an emphasis word. It does not mean like physical appearance, like that flower is pretty, or he or she is very pretty. We are not using it in that way. That's used as, or that's its use as an adjective. She's pretty, the flower is pretty, the sunset is pretty. This is a different use of pretty. This use of pretty is for emphasis. We can use pretty to modify adjectives and adverbs. It's probably a little below very or quite in strength of meaning. So I said quite is fairly polite in American English. Maybe very is next, and pretty would be under very in this case. We cannot use pretty to modify verbs, so please don't use this to modify a verb or to try to modify a verb. For example, she sings pretty well. She sings pretty well, so it has kind of a casual feel to it. She sings pretty well. And he's a pretty fast runner. He's a pretty fast runner. So again, that sort of casual feel. Here you can see as well, I've moved my article. This is okay to do. In this case, it's more natural to use the article before the emphasis word. He is a pretty fast runner. So please try to remember these small points, these small differences with these words. He's a pretty fast runner. So we would not say he is pretty a fast runner. We would say he's a pretty fast runner. If you use he is pretty a fast runner, there would be some confusion because as I talked about earlier, like the expression she is pretty, he's pretty, the sunset is pretty, it begins with this, he is pretty, a fast runner. It causes some confusion. So if you're going to use pretty to modify a noun in this way, put your article before pretty. So this is a pretty, he is a pretty, to make your emphasis statement there. That's going to sound much, much better. That's the correct way to make your emphasis statement with pretty. Okay, so let's continue on to the next point there. The next point is so. So we use so to connect words, as I just did. We also use so to modify adjectives and adverbs. So from all of the words on this whiteboard here, so is the most casual. And you'll often hear native speakers, when they say so, they make the O sound really long to emphasize even more. So not just so pretty or so good. We'll say so for emphasis. So I'll give you an example of that in a moment. We cannot use this to modify verbs, so please be careful of this point too. Some examples here. She sings so well. She sings so well. So in this case, adverb, well, and so. She sings so well. Here, he is so fast. He is so fast. So you'll notice in this one, not he is so a fast runner. We do not use it in that way. We tend to use so more before a sentence-ending adjective. It sounds a bit more natural to use it in this way. So, for example, here, he is so a quite runner, or I'm sorry, he is so a fast runner. We would not use it in this way. We use it directly before the adjective, like this, and it's very commonly found at the end of a sentence. So please try to keep this point in mind when you're using so and when you're listening to so too. Okay, lastly, I want to talk about such. Such is a little bit different from the other words I've talked about here. We can use such to modify adjectives, yes, and again, we're doing this before nouns with a and an, as I've talked about before. So we saw this here, a fast runner. So my adjective is here, my noun is here, and my article, a or an, is here. We're going to see that here as well. We need to use this pattern here with such. We cannot use such to modify adverbs. So in this example, in this lesson, I've been using well as my adverb, but we cannot use such to modify adverbs. So, final point here, modifying verbs. We also cannot use such to modify verbs, so please don't do that. Let's look at some examples of how we might use such to modify adjectives before nouns. First, she is such a good singer. She is such a good singer. So here, you'll notice such follows my verb, is, and then I have an article, a, my adjective is good, and I have the noun singer here. So, a good singer. Such is emphasizing good here. She's such a good singer. She's such a good singer. Next example, he is such a fast runner. He is such a fast runner. So this has the same feel as this one, but it sounds a little bit more friendly. So quite sounds fairly polite. Such sounds a little more friendly. He's such a fast runner. Finally, this is such an amazing dinner. This is such an amazing dinner. Here, my adjective is amazing. It begins with a vowel sound, so I need to use an amazing dinner. So you'll notice in each of these with such comes after the verb. So please make sure when you're making your sentences, such comes after your verb. So don't put it before, put it directly after the verb. You'll see it here with so too. She sings so well. He is so fast. It comes directly after the verb. So please keep that in mind, particularly with these two over here. Okay, so this is a quick introduction to the various parts of speech that we use these words with. I hope that you can find maybe some good hints for how and when to use these emphasis words. As far as American English goes, we use very a lot, really a lot. We use pretty, so, and such as well. I would say quite is maybe the least used from this group, and maybe such as well too. From time to time we use such too, but maybe these four would be good to focus on first, and then consider these two for the next parts of your studies. So I hope that this lesson was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, or if you want to practice making some sentences, please feel free to do so in the comment section of this video. Of course, if you like this lesson, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and check us out at EnglishClass101.com for some other things that can help you with your English studies. Thanks very much for watching this lesson, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye. Want to speed up your language learning? Take your very first lesson with us. You'll start speaking in minutes and master real conversations. Sign up for your free lifetime account. Just click the link in the description.